Hi guys, it's good to be back, and today I'm here with my son Sam, who is also the youth pastor here at Coastside Church, along with his wife, and we wanted to chat to you a little bit about generations and a little bit about how people should actually work together. So first of all, Sam, good to have you here.
Thank you.
You're normally behind the camera, but today you're sitting here with us doing this, and we wanted to chat about, what I said about how to work together.
Yeah.
So, do you want to start off as soon as his car goes past? Thanks, guys. But do you want to start with just chatting about how it works for you working with someone as old as me, or how you think different to my generation, and how you think that's gone so far?
Yeah.
Let's start with that.
Well, obviously, just a bit of background. I'm pretty lucky to be able to work with my dad. There's a lot of people out there that probably work with their dads on trade sites and stuff like that. Mine's I get to work with dad at church.
Yep.
And he's my dad and my boss. So that's pretty interesting. Sometimes I have to understand which hat he's wearing and where. But basically, over the years, it's been quite fun or tough, or whatever you want to call it, the journey. Both. Of learning how to work, not just with the dad dynamic, but a different generational thinking.
Yeah.
And it's not always smooth. There's clashes sometimes.
Yep.
Sometimes we agree on things, sometimes we don't.
Yeah.
But basically, just some of the values I've learnt is there's a lot of wisdom to be learnt from the generation before you. I remember when I started this, I thought I knew everything. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go for it. And here I am. I know everything. And probably 3 weeks in?
It wasn't that bad.
I figured out there's a lot to learn, and what I've learned over the last couple of years is there's a lot to learn from the current generation. If you're young out there, or you're looking for wisdom or answers, talk to someone that's older than you, or talk to someone that's maybe had a marriage before you, or worked in business before you, or just done stuff before you, and you'll learn a lot. So over the last couple of years, a lot of my skills or things I've learned is from having a chat and working with someone that knows more than me.
Well, I guess, obviously we're just chatting about this, and I hope that people can draw some stuff from it. But the first thing is, just in my mind, is that how important it is to work with the next gen. You're saying you've learnt from me, and I've been around for a while, but I want to say that I also learned from Sam. And this is part of the beauty of the generations working together. I don't know everything, and Sam doesn't know everything. Nobody knows everything. So the whole idea behind it is, if we can work together, and I take the time to listen to his ideas, he takes the time to listen to my ideas, then together, somewhere in the middle, we become the best team for all generations that are watching. But the problem is, and you mentioned it before, and I'm happy to bring it up, I'm happy to be honest about it, it's not always smooth.
No.
So what happens is that when you get to a rough patch, and say I tell you to do something, or I'm definite on a decision, you're definite about the way that you should do it, it can end up with a somewhat clash. And the clash is what will you'll either get over that and be a strong team, or it will separate you or separate us, and then the whole church, the whole thing that we're running, loses the advantage or the wisdom of having two people working together, or two generations working together. And to me, getting through those clashes is probably the best thing. It's not whether we have them, it's whether we work through them. Now, let's talk about a long race. A lot of people think, your career or your ministry or your church, they don't say it like this, but they treat it like a sprint. So what they're thinking is, if I run as fast as I can, for as long as I can, then I can take the church as far as I can. And I think you can start to hear this in how I'm talking about it. And then if you then start the race after I've finished, and then you do whatever you can do and run as hard as you can and sprint for as long as you can, then you get that bit done. But what happens is, the next gen thinks differently, so a lot of work that I've done has then been undone and then redone the way that you want to do it. Now, this is what I reckon should happen. This is what Sam and I are trying to role model. Instead of us being in a individual sprint race, we're looking at it more like it's a relay, where I can run fast and run as hard as I can. But there comes a time when I'm going to start to get closer to you with the baton, and then for a season, we're going to run together, And then after we've run together for a season, then Sam can continue on and run as fast as he can and go further
Yeah.
than what we've started. But in most relays, the biggest problem is when the baton is being changed over. It's not when someone's running. It's when the two are running together and they're struggling to reach the baton out. You're struggling to grab it. Am I going too slow?
Don't agree on the method.
Are you going too fast? Do we not agree on which side we're supposed to be standing? There's a whole bunch of stuff that can happen in a relay race that's around the handing over of the baton and that time when, not when I stop running and Sam starts, but the time when both of us are running together.
Yeah.
And I want to encourage you, if you can run together, whether it's with, your parents as you're growing up, whether it's with a church, it doesn't have to be your natural son like Sam and I.
Yeah.
It could be, you could be the associate pastor or the youth pastor coming up under someone that's not your dad. But the principle is still the same.
Yeah.
Someone's run before you. There's a time when we run together, and that's when some of the clashes come and some of the differences come. And there's a time when you will run on and I will cheer you on as you go. And that's what we wanted to highlight in this video. How to do it, like how to run not two individual sprint races, but how to run a relay, more of a long distance race.
Yeah.
And the changing of the baton, how that happens. And we are sort of in the middle of it, and the baton
Learning,
change may take 2 years. It may take, I don't know how long it will take, but it'll take some time.
Yeah.
So,
Well, basically,
share your thoughts on it. Like,
basically, if you look at history and how anything's worked well, it's the transition. It's not the success before or after.
that's very true.
It's actually the transition. You look at any great company, great church. It wasn't one guy did a great job and the other one could maintain it, or one guy didn't do a good job and then the other one did a good job. It was the transition of building a legacy or building, a culture or building a thing over a long time, like a long time.
Yeah.
And if you look at just the Christian faith in general, the reason why it's thriving today and it's so big is because it's transitioned from generation to generation so well. People, raise their kids up, the kids have raised their kids up.
Yep.
And to think that if we disagree or don't get along in the transition, how things can die,
that's right.
wisdom can perish.
What's the dangerous part?
Yeah, that's when everything can disappear.
It could the baton could be dropped.
Yep.
There could be arguments over how you do it,
Yep.
and then all the momentum that the first guy's done is wasted, and then the second guy has to run harder to pick that thumb up. And that's what we're doing in the spiritual, but also in the natural.
And you got to imagine like the heartache of like resetting, like being. This could be for anyone. You might even not be in the church. You could be anywhere. And if I don't learn from his mistakes, it's quite easy. I just repeat history over again, and I do the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's true.
So, it's not about one generation being more successful. It's not young people are better than old people are better than young people. They're smarter, whatever. It's all down to the transition of two generations coming together to create a long life legacy and journey. Yeah. And I think one of the sayings that I say a lot is the old generation will keep you wise, but the next gen will keep you relevant. So if you can be wise and relevant in this current climate, you can lead a lot of people to Christ. Yeah. Being wise and having relevancy to people and listening to their stories and brokenness and understanding that side, but also having the wisdom to give answers and to give advice on marriages or anything. Those two worlds colliding create a good platform to show how good and awesome God is with generations. And I don't know if you want to share on it just before we finish up, the role changing of father and son figures and how we see that. We don't see it as your time's up now. It's about roles changing.
That's good. And I guess when we're talking about transition and we're talking about roles changing, it's not whether I am working for the church or I'm not working for the church. I'm always going to serve God, and I'm always going to be working with the church for the church. But my role might change, and Sam's role might change. And I think the best way to describe that is even with a family, you've got a child that you're raising, and he's always going to be your child. but he's going to grow up into a man or into a woman, and their role may change where they get married and have their own family, yet they're still your son.
Yeah, because I
So
become a dad.
you become a
You
dad,
become a grandfather.
but
all
I'm
of a sudden.
but I'm still
But now
your
you're playing
dad.
more roles.
That's right.
And then I'll one day become
That's
a
right.
grandfather, you know, like.
Yeah, that's right.
But you're not disqualified from the family because you're too old.
That's right.
And I'm not
There's still a part
disqualified
to play.
because I'm too young.
That's right. And
Yeah.
and I think if churches modelled themselves off how families grow up
Yep.
and how kids grow up and support the family, and the grandfathers and the dads and the kids have different roles, but those
Yeah.
roles change, the same thing can happen into a church. And
Yep.
instead of being, well, I'm fixed at I'm the senior and that's it forever, well, you could be the senior, the assistant, the youth pastor, the children's church worker. As long as you are working for the kingdom, it's not about one
Yeah.
person running that sprint race.
Yeah.
It's about all of us running together, changing the batons over
Yeah.
cleanly when positions and roles change,
Yeah.
but then for the benefit of the church, it goes on smoothly.
Yeah.
And to me, this whole topic is based around unity.
Yeah.
You
Unity.
know,
Yeah.
and the Bible says that united we stand,
Divided
and
we fall.
divided we fall. And so many churches struggle, so many families struggle, so many everything
Businesses.
struggles because
Yeah.
they're divided in how they're going forward and dividing in
Yeah.
which is the best way to go forward. When if there was just unity involved, and then we worked on the transitions and we worked on the changeovers and we worked on the different roles,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, businesses, families, churches, I believe could go 100% smoother. And I hope that as I get older in Coastside Church and you get older in Coastside Church, that we can role model a successful working together in unity, both running hard at different times,
Yeah.
both running hard together as we're changing the baton, and get the best result and win the race of life, win the race of the church God's called us to
Yeah.
build, win the race in the families, that God wants
Anything
us
we
to
do.
run. In everything we do, I believe these principles can work. So
Yeah.
that's sort of my thoughts
Yeah.
on the whole, working together.
And just to add to that, because you can see it's getting quite dark, we're running out of daylight. Just what Mark was saying before, Dad, that if it becomes a race, your calling dies at the finish line.
Yeah.
If it's a marathon or you contribute in some sort of way, your calling is like forever. You don't get too old to not serve in the church. You don't get too old to contribute to people's lives, nor are you too young. And I think that's a great motto. I don't want people say, "Oh, I've had my time," but I think our time's when we check into heaven.
It's always your time,
Yeah.
just different roles.
Yeah, like I don't even like there's some great people in our church that are 80 years old
Yeah.
and they still serve and they still see a young person or someone come to the door and go, "Welcome to church," and so good to see you, because they haven't gone, "Oh, my time's up." They've gone, "I'm a different role now.
Yeah.
I've got something else to do." And I think that is a great example. If we can model a great family in the church, we can model what it is to have a great family outside of the church.
Absolutely.
So it all
totally
works
agree.
hand in
Yeah,
hand.
totally
so.
agree.
So
Absolutely.
yeah. Well,
Well,
you gonna wrap up?
You want to wrap up?
Minturns is gonna fight over who's gonna wrap up.
I tell you what, you can wrap up. I'll see you next time. And
Thanks for watching. We appreciate you clicking on this video, and we appreciate you being part of our church and our family and everything. And just thank you for being involved. Hopefully we're back together soon.
it won't be long, and church will be back.
And
on.
I
It's
reckon it's going
awesome.
to be amazing
Yeah.
to have people back together, have a family back together.
Yeah.
And I believe that God hasn't even started with what He's about to do in the life of Coastside. We've got some amazing
so
things
much
ahead
to-
of us.
Absolutely.
And we enjoyed our COVID holiday, but we're gonna seriously get back to influencing our world and changing the world. So
absolutely.
appreciate you all. Love you heaps, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you soon.
Bye.